Hi, my name is Ben Conley. I am the creator of the feature-length audio drama Mango Dead Serious. Casting, to sum it up, is basically when you are in the process of finding your actors for the project you're working on. Casting means posting information about your project on different platforms so actors can then find the casting and submit to your project for the different roles that you have created the castings for. The platforms I used to post my castings were Casting Networks, Actors Access, which is also Breakdown Express on the kind of casting director side of things, but actors would know it as Actors Access, and then Backstage. All the actors who ended up booking roles in Mango Dead Serious came from Casting Networks. The first role I needed to cast for was Dr. Charlotte Fox, which was the lead role. And the actor I ended up casting for the role of Dr. Charlotte Fox was Alexandra Cruz. My first impression of Alexandra was that she was just like very prepared. You know, she had the setup, she looked the part, and I knew, like, as soon as she started reading, I knew that I was going to call her in for a callback. She just had this like infectious energy. And I was feeling that through a Zoom call because our first audition was a virtual audition or a Zoom call. And in fact, Dr. Fox, the role for Dr. Fox was the only role that I had callbacks for because that was the most substantial role. It's the lead role. And I felt like it was important to be in the same room with the person to understand more about them. You know, very early on in that callback, I was like, I'm pretty sure she's going to be the one, even though I actually hadn't even heard the other two. So I called 3 actors in for that role. And Alexandra was the first one out of the 3. And that's a great feeling because you know you have somebody, you have something in the bank. After the first one, you're like, oh, I feel really good about that. But she had a really just outstanding callback. I think we vibed, which was important because we're going to be spending a lot of time together. Once I made the decision, I scheduled a meeting with Alex in Santa Monica. We chatted about the project. I shared the script with her, and not long after that, she accepted the role and we were off and running. Another big role I needed to cast for was the role of Tracy Jackson. And the actor who ended up booking that role was Keishia Simon. Originally, Tracy Jackson was meant to be a retired post office worker. So, you know, 50, 60, 60s probably. I was imagining that role to be older. And Keishia is not 60 years old. She's young. And she won the rollover in the audition, and it had to do with a very specific line that she improv'd during her audition. She read the scene that's in the RV where she's trying to start the RV up, and out of nowhere, these zombies like attack the RV, and Kismet's barking, all hell's breaking loose, and she's trying to start this RV, but the RV's not starting. And she's kind of having these flashbacks of like her old post office truck not starting. And man, she knocked that out of the park. She was like, I mean, her camera was shaking. She was so into it. She had like brought her keys, you know, to use as a little prop, which I thought was fun. And she improv'd this line. The line I think originally was, you know, she's trying to get the RV started. I've done this when it's raining. I've done this when it's snowing. Hell, I've done this with while getting robbed with a gun to my head. But I sure as hell have never done this with zombies trying to eat me alive, something like that. PG. But she improv'd it and was like,
I've done this a million times. Whew, with the post office truck, I've done this when it was raining. I've done it when it was snowing. Hell, I've done it with a gun to my head while getting robbed in Compton, but I sure as hell has never done it with no motherfucking zombies trying to eat my fat ass alive. Come on, you motherfucker. Hang on, Kismet. We about to run some motherfuckers over.
Oh my God, that cracked me up so much. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like one of those moments in audition where you're like, oh my God, this person can take it to a place that you weren't even imagining. And I could sense that she had the ability to improv stuff, which I thought would be really fun for this role because Tracy was a bit of a loose cannon. You know, she's fun. She's very outspoken. She knows who she likes and who she doesn't like. She's very proud. And I just thought she was going to be older. And you know what? I thought about it and I kind of went back and forth. And I really leaned into the fact that of that audition, I watched the audition back. I saw the scene again that she improvised. I saw how much I was laughing. And that's what booked her the role of Tracy Jackson. Casting for the role of Henry West, also known as Uncle Henry, played by John Eddings, is a crazy story because Henry West wasn't the character I cast John to play initially. I saw two people for the role of Uncle Henry. I felt very strongly that John was going to be the guy even before I auditioned him because I had seen his work. I knew he was a very talented character actor, capable of doing different voices, different characters. And originally, Uncle Henry was Professor Henry. He was this wild, wacky British guy. And that's a hard talent to find on a real small project like this. There's not a lot of great character actors who are submitting for something like this. So that's why I felt strongly that John was going to have this role because he was almost the only guy who could really pull it off, the British accent. So when I auditioned him, I had him read the role as British Professor Henry. And luckily, I had him also read it as American Professor Henry. We actually ended up recording all his scenes as the British version. The problem was when I got into the edit and when I really listened to the accent, I realized a couple things. I realized that one, it was on the fence of being a little too animated for what this ended up being, which is not a cartoon. It's not live action, but it's a live action style audio drama. And so I was worried that we took it too far with the wackiness and the zaniness of Professor Henry at the time. Another major problem was, and this was a big lesson learned, I'm recording with the actors by myself. So I'm directing them, I'm reading the script, I'm operating the Zoom recorder, the levels, I'm the sound engineer. And what I realized, what I wasn't able to do was really pinpoint the accent. Or in other words, I wasn't able to hear when the accent was drifting into a different version of the accent. When I was listening to the recordings during the editing process, that's where it really stood out. And I recognized that as funny as John's accent was and how great it was shifting from different styles of British accents. And so that became problematic when I tried cutting it together because it didn't sound the same. But you wouldn't know it sitting there. I'm not like a linguist or a dialect pro either. I lived in London. I could tell the accent was working, but I wasn't able to hear those nuances of the changes in it. And in John's defense, that's hard for him too. I think when you're acting on a small thing like this, you don't have a ton of time to prepare. You don't have like a dialect coach sitting over there be like, oh, no, that A was a little whatever. So, and he doesn't have me helping him as the director because that's not something I'm listening for on this project. So I had to make a very difficult call with John and say, listen, this isn't working. Are you interested in playing the character as an American more as yourself? And he was totally down for it. He's like, yep, absolutely, let's do it. So I actually rewrote the character to an American version that sounded like John, that was John. And we went with that, and he turned into Uncle Henry versus Professor Henry. So Professor Henry was kind of, more scholastic, and Uncle Henry is a little more dive bar guy. He was a Vietnam vet. He lives out in Palm Springs with a kind of the Hawaiian shirt and aviators, maybe kind of like a Magnum PI type of look to him. And John played that role perfectly. But the thing that was different was that John was just using his regular voice. And I didn't have to worry about that. And it sounded like him. It worked. And we went with that. And I just think it worked out for the best. Casting for the role of Summer Cassidy, who is played by Hannah McBride, presented a unique challenge because Summer Cassidy, the character, is a singer-songwriter. Mango Dead Serious has an original song in it that's performed by the character Summer Cassidy, who's a singer-songwriter. And the song is called Without You, which is written and eventually performed by Leanne Skoda. One of the difficult decisions I had to make regarding the role of Summer Cassidy was who was going to sing and perform the role. Like, was the actor I cast going to be able to sing it? If so, how were we going to record it? I ended up landing on the decision that Leanne was going to perform the song. And the reason for that is Leanne plays the guitar. I had to have one recording where the character was singing and playing at the same time. That kind of forced my hand that unless the actor I cast for Summer Cassidy not only sang, but also could sing and play the song on a guitar, I was going to have Leanne sing and perform the song, record it, and use that kind of like how they do with Disney movies or whatever. They'll have a professional singer sing the song, do that approach for this role. So my mission became, I had to find an actor that sounded like Leanne, or at least sounded like Leanne sang. Hannah's audition story is funny because she submitted for the role of Summer Cassidy through casting networks. And she was the only one I reached out to for a virtual audition. And the reason for that is I could just tell that she looked the part, she sounded the part, and this is from material she had in her portfolio on casting networks. And she even had a clip where she was singing. And so the fact that she could sing, in addition to how she sounded, which is with like a little bit of a Southern accent, she was the only one I reached out to call in for a virtual audition. I didn't hear from her. I replied again through the casting network's messaging system, didn't hear from her. And I'm like, oh God, this is the only person I was interested in. Like, what am I going to do? So I found her on Instagram. I DM'd her and I said, I'm so sorry to reach out to you in this way. I'm paraphrasing here, but you submitted to a role on casting networks. I think you would be great for it. Would you be interested in auditioning? And she's like, oh my God. Sorry, that accent. Sorry, Hannah. She's just so sweet though, with the Southern accent. I ended up learning that she had been filming a movie in Vegas, which is why she was off the grid, but she was definitely interested in the project and the role. What I loved about her audition, the scene she read was the scene at the end of Mango Dead Serious where we get to hear how Mango and Summer first meet at a bar. Basically, Mango comes up and asks if this seat's taken, and she's like, oh, no, it's all yours. And they sit down and they end up having a conversation. And that was the scene she read for the audition. So she totally had the beer going. I learned later that it was an actual beer.
Actually, I might have actually been drinking a beer at the time. I was like, let's do it. It's 7 o'clock.
Gosh, I remember a moment in her audition where she puts the beer down and she kind of leans into the camera and delivers the line. And I was just like, I felt like myself moving towards the camera, watching her. I had no doubt after that she was going to be Summer Cassidy, or if she was interested. The role of Summer Cassidy was much smaller when I initially wrote this story. When I cast Hannah, and after we recorded the kind of smaller bits, I added scenes in for Hannah and made the role of Summer Cassidy bigger because of how awesome Hannah was. Other actors who came aboard this project and played smaller roles was Charlie Yoon, who played the role of Derek Choi, Spring Inez Pena, who played the news anchor, Kevin Walsh, who plays Mick the bartender, Irish guy, really funny, and then Monica Marquez, who plays the ambulance driver. And all those characters went through a similar casting process as the other actors, all virtual auditions. Had to take the time, even though these are much smaller roles, you still have to put in the time to find the right person. I feel very lucky and grateful and honored that all of these actors were interested and available for this project to come together and fill out the cast of Mango Dead Serious. Hey, Ben here. I hope you enjoyed this special Mango Dead Serious bonus episode. Subscribe to our channel or follow us on social media for lots more behind the scenes content, and stay tuned for more audio action coming from Hard 90 Productions.